His name was Adolf Tolkachev. He was a Soviet engineer, and every day at 12:30 p.m. he ate lunch at his desk. While he ate, he was dismantling the Soviet Air Force from the inside. For 9 years, Tolkachev walked into the most classified military radar laboratory in the Soviet Union, signed out top-secret documents, hid them under his coat, photographed thousands of pages during his lunch break, and handed the negatives to the CIA. He did not do it for the money. He did not do it because America recruited him. He did it because the Soviet regime had murdered his wife's family, and he had been waiting decades for a way to make them pay. What he gave the United States was worth more than $2 billion in military research. It accelerated American air superiority by 5 years, and it directly contributed to one of the most one-sided air battles in modern history. June 9, 1982, Lebanon. The Syrian Air Force, flying Soviet MiG-21s and MiG-23s, equipped with Soviet radar and Soviet missiles, lost 80 fighter jets in less than 2 hours. The Israelis, flying American F-15s and F-16s, lost 0. The Soviet generals watching the battle unfold didn't just lose aircraft that day. They lost their confidence. A secret KGB report sent to the Soviet president after Lebanon concluded, if war broke out today between the USSR and the United States, the Soviet Union would lose and the whole world would be watching. They spent 3 years trying to find the leak. Tolkachev had been eating lunch the whole time. This is his story, and it is one of the most audacious intelligence operations the CIA has ever run. Born January 6, 1927, in the Soviet city of Aktau, now Kazakhstan, Adolf Tolkachev came into the world with a name that would shadow him for life. His father, infatuated with German romanticism, named him Adolf because it meant noble Wolf in Old Germanic. He couldn't have imagined that within 15 years that name would become the most hated word in Russia. But the wound that turned him into the CIA's greatest Cold War asset didn't come from a battlefield. It came from Stalin. In the 1930s, the Soviet state had arrested his wife's mother and executed her. Her father had been sent to the Gulag, the forced labor camp system that consumed millions of ordinary Soviet citizens who had done nothing except exist near someone the regime decided to destroy. Tolkachev never forgot that dot by the 1970s. He had become one of the leading engineers at Phasotron, the Soviet Union's most classified radar design bureau, responsible for developing the airborne radar systems used in every frontline Soviet fighter jet. The MiG-29, the MiG-31, the Su-27. He had access to the technical specifications, performance data, and development roadmaps for the weapons the Soviet Air Force was counting on to win a war against the United States. He was, on paper, a model Soviet citizen, senior engineer, trusted, decorated dot on the inside. He was waiting for a chance to settle his score with a government that had been murdering innocent people since before he was born. That chance arrived on a cold morning in January 1977. At a Moscow gas station used by American diplomats, CIA station chief Robert Fulton was filling his car when a stranger approached. "Are you American? I would like to talk to you." Before Fulton could respond, Tolkachev slipped a note through the window. He wanted to discuss matters on a strictly confidential basis. The CIA's response was immediate. "Ignore him. It's a trap." Classic KGB provocation. For a year, Tolkachev tried again, and again, and again. 5 separate attempts to approach CIA vehicles near the embassy. 5 times he was ignored or waved off. Most people would stop. Tolkachev was not most people. On March 1, 1978, more than a year after his first attempt, he approached Moscow Station Chief Gus Hathaway and his wife as they were getting into their car. This time he came with evidence. He handed over a letter. In it, he identified himself fully, name, employer, position. And then he revealed something that stopped the CIA cold. Detailed technical specifications on the Soviet look-down, shoot-down radar system the Pentagon wasn't even sure the Soviets had successfully developed. If Soviet fighters flying at altitude could detect and kill American crews, missiles flying low to avoid radar, the entire U.S. strategy for a European war was obsolete. The Pentagon immediately demanded the CIA make contact. They gave Tolkachev the codename CKSPHERE. What followed was one of the most productive and dangerous intelligence operations in CIA history, run entirely inside the most surveilled city on Earth. The Moscow KGB was not like any other counterintelligence service. American CIA officers operating under diplomatic cover couldn't walk out the front door of the embassy without an assigned KGB surveillance team. They couldn't take a taxi, make a phone call, or buy groceries without being monitored. Running a spy inside that environment required the CIA to become artists of deception. The Jack-in-the-Box CIA officer Bill Plunkett and his team drove out of the embassy one night pretending to go to a birthday party. Hidden in the back seat was what looked like a birthday cake, but inside was a life-sized cardboard cutout of Plunkett on a spring mechanism. When the car turned a corner and blocked the KGB surveillance vehicle's sightline for 3 seconds, Plunkett opened the door and rolled out. The cutout popped up in his seat. The KGB tail continued following the car. Plunkett put on a mask, dressed as a local, and walked to meet Tolkachev on foot. That's the level of operational genius required just to get to the meeting. Inside Phasitron, Tolkachev's methods were equally audacious. He would sign out classified documents, hide them under his coat, walk home for lunch, photograph everything with a CIA-supplied Pentax camera, return the documents before the afternoon shift, all inside an 80-minute lunch break in the most security-conscious military research complex in the Soviet Union. When the CIA worried his document checkouts looked suspicious, they forged him a fake library permission slip, replicating Soviet bureaucratic paperwork from inside Langley to make his access patterns look routine. In a single meeting in June 1980, he handed over 179 rolls of film, more than 6,000 pages of classified documents. The files included complete specifications on new Soviet airborne radar, look-down, shoot-down systems for the MiG-25, MiG-29, and MiG-31, and the entire development roadmap for Soviet air defense into the 1990 S.US. Engineers used Tolkachev's intelligence to redesign American radar and electronic warfare systems years ahead of schedule. The CIA estimated he had saved the U.S. government more than $2 billion in research and development and accelerated American military air superiority by a minimum of 5 years. The Soviets were building systems to defeat an American Air Force that Tolkachev had already told America how to upgrade. Which brings us back to Lebanon. 1982, when 80 Syrian MiG-jets fell out of the sky in 2 hours. The Israeli Air Force already knew every frequency those planes were broadcasting on, every weakness in the radar lock, every gap in the missile guidance. They knew because the United States had told them, and the United States knew because Adolf Tolkachev had photographed it at lunch. The KGB knew the leak existed, but finding a mole inside a facility with thousands of cleared employees in Moscow, where every CIA officer is watched, was nearly impossible. So they invented a weapon. The KGB called it Metka, codenamed Robin by Western analysts. Spy dust. An almost invisible chemical powder, similar in concept to the fluorescent dust used in forensics to lift fingerprints, but far more sophisticated. They would dust car door handles, doorknobs, the seats of chairs, anywhere an American intelligence officer might touch. The moment a CIA officer brushed against the chemical, they became a walking beacon. The KGB could identify them in a crowd of 1 million people. The dust was so effective that American CIA officers in Moscow, some of the most composed, disciplined intelligence professionals in the world, began exhibiting signs of paranoia that looked almost clinical. They washed their hands obsessively. They checked their clothing before leaving buildings. Some refused to touch common surfaces at all. The KGB was getting close. Then one of their own scientists made the fatal mistake of handing a sample of the dust directly to an American intelligence contact, selling out the formula, the detection frequencies, and the entire methodology. One traitor inside the Soviet radar program had handed America the secrets of Soviet air warfare. Now a second Soviet traitor had handed America the only weapon they'd built to catch the first one. The CIA now knew exactly what to look for and how to avoid it. The operation that the KGB's best counterintelligence couldn't crack was ultimately destroyed by a man sitting at a desk in Washington, D.C. In February 1982, the CIA assigned a young officer named Edward Lee Howard to prepare for a Moscow station posting. For over a year, he sat on the Soviet desk at Langley headquarters, reading classified cables from inside Russia. He came across references to CKSPHERE Adolf Tolkachev. He didn't know Tolkachev's real name, but he knew there was a mole deep inside the Soviet military-industrial complex. Before Howard ever deployed to Moscow, the CIA discovered he had been lying on his polygraphs about drug use, alcohol, and petty crime. He was forced to resign. He was furious. Within months, he walked into the Soviet consulate in Washington and left a note offering to sell CIA secrets for $60,000. When the KGB flew him to Vienna for his first meeting, they treated him like royalty, champagne, caviar. Respect. Howard told them everything. He didn't know Tolkachev's name, but he knew enough about the operation's parameters that the KGB could narrow their search to a single facility. Then Aldrich Ames, CIA officer running Soviet counterintelligence, who was himself a KGB mole, confirmed the identity. On June 9, 1985, exactly 3 years after the Lebanon air disaster that Tolkachev's intelligence had helped engineer, the KGB raided Tolkachev's Moscow apartment. They found his CIA cameras, his dead drop instructions, the bricks of rubles, and the date, time, and location of his next meeting. 2 days later, on a Moscow street, a uniformed police officer stopped Tolkachev's car in traffic. He wasn't a police officer. He jammed a rag in Tolkachev's mouth and shoved him into a van. Tolkachev confessed under KGB interrogation. He insisted his family knew nothing. His trial lasted almost no time. A 3-member military tribunal convicted him of treason. The sentence, death. Before he was taken away, he was given 15 minutes with his son, Oleg. Father and son, both of them lifelong opponents of the Soviet system, faced each other in a room for the last time. Tolkachev apologized. His son hadn't known about the spying. Oleg immediately shook his head and cut him off. He refused to let his father blame himself. On September 24, 1986, Adolf Tolkachev was executed by firing squad. His wife Natasha was sentenced to a gulag. She died in 1991, just months before the Soviet Union itself collapsed. The CIA never went to help her. What Adolf Tolkachev gave the United States cannot be measured in dollars alone. He handed American engineers the complete technical picture of every radar system the Soviet Air Force was counting on to win a war. He gave the Pentagon 5 years of lead time to develop countermeasures, 5 years during which the Soviets were building weapons specifically designed to defeat an Air Force that was quietly being upgraded to defeat them. The Lebanon Battle of 1982 was not just an Israeli tactical victory. It was a live demonstration in front of the entire world, including Soviet generals, that America's intelligence advantage had already made the Soviet military's most prized systems obsolete. When the Cold War ended without a single direct military confrontation between the two superpowers, Part of that outcome was owed to the fact that the Soviet Union's generals, the men who would have had to give the order to fight, knew the numbers. They had seen those numbers in Lebanon. At CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. A portrait hangs in the hallway. A man leaning over a Pentax camera, photographing documents. A clock showing 12:27, 3 minutes before the end of his lunch. Break. It is the only portrait of a non-American citizen displayed at CIA headquarters. His name is Adolf Tolkachev, and the Soviet Air Force is still counting the cost. When Russell Crowe's film eventually hits theaters, millions of people will search for the real story. This is that story, told without a screenplay getting in the way. Subscribe to this channel if you want the intelligence history that Hollywood hasn't gotten to yet. Next, the CIA operation that stole a Soviet nuclear submarine from the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, while the Soviets watched and couldn't do a thing about it. Like this video if Tolkachev's story deserves to be remembered. See you in the next classified file.